This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jasperson.
We're grateful you're here with us on this very special edition of Real Talk. Today we're going to talk to three different levels of government, three elected officials with a vested interest in the rebuild of one of Canada's crown jewels. That is, of course, the town of Jasper. Following a devastating wildfire in July of 2024, sites are now being cleared. Some development permits are being issued, and hundreds of millions of dollars are in flux, promised, some of it awarded, very little of it actually delivered, because these three levels of government do not see eye to eye on what Jasper's rebuild should look like. There's longtime residents in Jasper. There's entrepreneurs in Jasper. There's visitors to Jasper. Everybody has their say, their opinion on what Jasper should look like. Jasper 2.0. So who's right? We're going to dig into it today. We'll be taking a look at our live chat powered by Park Power. And as we check in with the mayor of Jasper, Richard Ireland, Alberta's Minister of Municipal Affairs, and in just a moment, the Honourable Terry Duguid. He's Canada's Minister of Sport, and he's just been appointed as the federal lead on Jasper's recovery. We'll get a sense of where the three governments are at. A big announcement from Ottawa, more than $150 million promised for Jasper. But there will be conditions tied to it. Is it the right move? You let us know what you say. You can email the show anytime to talk@ryanjesperson.com. We're going to check in with the minister in 30 seconds. But first, I've got to let you know this episode of the show does not happen without the support of Alberta's top online real estate school. You know where to find it online at relo.ca. That's RELO.ca. We're showing you the Alberta Real Estate Course Bundle right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, this is the best place to start. If you're watching all your friends, your neighbors working in real estate, you love that idea of the unlimited earning potential. You love the idea of working for yourself and helping folks find or sell that perfect home. You're going to want to start with their most popular and convenient course offering. That's the Alberta Residential Real Estate Course Bundle. Don't forget the promo code RYAN100, all one word, will knock $100 off your registration exclusively at relo.ca. That's RYAN100 when you get started today at Relo. Just hours ago, the federal government announcing more than $160 million to support Jasper's wildfire response and recovery. The announcement made by the recently appointed federal lead for Jasper's recovery, and that is Canada's Minister of Sport, the Honourable Terry Duguid, elected out of Manitoba, by the way, so I don't have to apologize for the Edmonton weather that you're encountering. What was it like in Jasper yesterday?
Well, it was, of course, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, but a profound experience for me, just seeing the devastation, the burned out homes, the burned out businesses. And some people lost their homes, some people lost their businesses, some lost both. And so it really was, I know, a traumatic experience for that community, but really inspired by the can-do spirit, by the resiliency of the community, and how they want to build back better. So it was great to be there, great to hear directly from them on what they want and what they need.
Yeah, who are you talking to out there, and what were they telling you?
Well, I was talking to the mayor, of course. I was talking to the municipal councillors, the business community, local residents, the Parks Canada folks. Really, I was talking to the whole community. We made an announcement, as you mentioned, $160 million, some of that for recovery efforts and rehabilitating some of those destroyed sites, but a big chunk of that was for housing, about $40 million, 30 of that for interim housing, because that is what the community has told us is the essential need right now. You cannot rebuild a community, you cannot recover unless you can get people housed there to do the work. You can't restart your tourism economy without workers, and they need a place to live. And so that is what I heard from the town, and that is what we delivered yesterday.
Do you get a sense that when you're talking to people in Jasper, I'll acknowledge you weren't out there for a month, but when you're talking to people out there, did you get the sense that everybody was on the same page on what the town's build should look like, on what population density or the footprint should look like? What were your observations?
Well, I heard a consistent message that in terms of development and housing, the community wants the term is densification. They do not want to go outside the park boundaries. They want to build within the boundaries. Parks has made sites available, has leveled those pieces of property. That's where the interim housing is going to go. And then there's a vision for long-term housing, another 250 units or so. You'll see that in the press release is $9.4 additional $million. And we really want to work. You referenced this in your opening remarks, but we really want to work with the province. There's an additional need for housing. I don't think we need to get hung up on little disputes. Let's work for the people there and what they want.
Yeah, and we'll talk to the provincial minister, one of those in charge of Alberta's position on this, in about 10 minutes, right after we talk to you, Minister. But I think it's safe to say there's stories that have been flaring up. People are aware that the Alberta government has promised about $112 million and then appears to have reneged on that promise, or is at least holding on to the cash. So they want it tied to single-family home rebuilds. We'll ask the Minister, McIver, why that's important to him, why that's important to the government. But it sounds to me like the town is asking for more housing density. They want more
correct.
community units. But how did that manifest itself and what people were talking to you about in the mountain town itself?
Well, we had a round table with local residents and businesses. In the meeting, that message was very, very consistent. The services are there on those sites where those new units will go for interim housing. And so they want to use their land efficiently. This is in the middle of a national park. Our national park lands are precious to not only Albertans but Canadians, and so it's important we preserve the landscape for this and future generations.
How does the federal government plan to address the differing views, let's call it, between the provincial government and the municipality regarding housing structures? Like, obviously, it's obvious that the province prefers those single-family dwellings, and we'll hear from the mayor himself as well, the municipal perspective. But what role does Ottawa play in this, and how can you see that playing out over the next number of months? There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of projects that will not break ground until they get that sorted out.
Well, I'm just from the school of thought that the governments need to get along, and we need to keep the people of Jasper front and center. And my view also is that we should listen to the people who live there, who work there, who recreate there, and this is what they shared with me, and I think this is what we need to do. So I think we need to, in these challenging times, find common ground with the province. So I'll be reaching out to Minister Nixon and Minister McIver and others next week. I'll be back in Alberta, and I hope we can find common ground, because the need that came up front and center was the need for more housing. It's hard to carry on a tourism economy without people, and people need a place to live. And this was what the major message was to me yesterday, which I'm obviously going to take back to Ottawa, and I'll take to the provincial ministers next week. I'm
curious for your insights into the role that Parks Canada is playing as well. I had the honor of hosting the Edmonton Chamber Ball a short time ago, and it's Edmonton's business community getting together, and an entrepreneur approached me. She and her family have been hoteliers in Jasper for many, many years, a very known family in Jasper and in Edmonton, and she was conveying the frustration that they have and quite frankly, the serious concerns that they have over the position that Parks Canada has taken on this, and sort of the grandfathered idea of what the properties should look like, how they should be rebuilt. She says they have huge opportunities right now to upgrade, to sort of look to the future on where hospitality not just is right now, but where the tourism economy is going. Yes. And she says it would influence how they would rebuild their properties. This is a family that's been invested there for decades and decades. What would you say to her, and in particular the role that Parks Canada plays in this, rather a protectionist one?
Yeah, I would say I heard that message yesterday, loud and clear, and so I think there needs to be a dialogue. And a phrase that came up repeatedly was "Build Back Better." That we have a chance. Jasper has a chance to renew, refurbish, and think about not just the next 5 months or 5 years, but in fact the long term. Because again, this is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Canadians, but also people from around the world want to visit our beautiful park system. And of course, that is great for jobs, great for the tourism community, and great for local people, and great for hoteliers like your friends.
In light of the wildfire, and obviously Jasper in close proximity to Banff, there was a devastating wildfire obviously several years ago in Waterton National Park in the southern part of the province and the like. I think it's woken people up to what could happen, what can happen. What steps are the feds taking to mitigate future wildfire risk in national parks like Jasper?
Yeah. So for the entire Parks Canada system, coast to coast to coast, we're making $100 million available. I saw up close and personal yesterday some of the fire risk reduction methods that they're using in and around Jasper, and these methods, these fire smart methods, will be utilized across the country. You know, we're in a different era. This is the climate change era. We've had droughts, floods, fires, and everything in between, and we have to adapt. And particularly in this part of the world, we have to adapt to increased fire risk. And so, I saw a demonstration of that yesterday. Great to be clearing brush and to be burning off some of this fuel that starts wildfires. Good to be doing that in the winter, and I saw Parks Canada out there doing that with the local residents' blessing yesterday.
Can you talk about the assistance that's being made available to businesses to get back on their feet? I mean, you acknowledged obviously the huge role that the tourism economy plays there, but what does this infusion of cash, more than $160 million, do, and maybe even more long term? What's the federal government looking to do for business?
So again, you mentioned some of the frustration of some of the business owners, the residents, about the speed of recovery. But we were right there on the ground floor to support businesses through the Business Recovery Program. This is a program through Prairies Can, which is the ministry I lead. So, and some of that money for 122 businesses was really a lifeline to get them over this very, very difficult period while tourism restarts. But there'll be money for employment insurance for those people who didn't qualify, an expanded eligibility requirement. I want to give a shout out to my good friend, fellow Edmontonian Randy Boissonneau, who started us on that journey of being a little more flexible with employment insurance and other programs that are going to help people who have lost their jobs. But Housing has been an essential component that the businesses have asked for because they need workers, they need recovery, they need the debris cleared, and so we're starting on that journey together. But we also heard from businesses. I visited 3 businesses, a pharmacy, a restaurant, a bakery, and was hearing about their specific needs. And so I'm taking those back to Ottawa, and reestablishing a working group of ministers, employment minister, environment minister, our parks minister, our infrastructure and housing minister, to take those needs back to the government of Canada to see what more we can do in terms of investing in the community, investing in our businesses.
What were the businesses telling you? What was the theme? What did the bakery owner tell you?
Well, they have just been through hell and back, right? They had to leave the community for 3 or 4 weeks. The food rotted in their fridges. Their inventory was destroyed, so they basically had to start from zero, and that's where these supports from the federal government and the provincial government, to give them credit, were so essential. But they told me they were in it for the long haul. They were committed to their community. They were committed to their federal citizens, and they wanted to see their governments get along and do what is right by them, the citizens and businesses of Jasper, and to keep them front and center in these conversations that are happening. There is going to need to be hundreds of millions of dollars in investment to rebuild, to build back better, and the federal government will be there for them. And I told them yesterday that I would be their voice in Ottawa.
Did you get the sense, I'm not saying this is the case, but I know that for a lot of people that are looking to rebuild their lives after an event, a tragedy like this, it can be difficult. There's a lot of red tape. A lot of people will encounter issues with their insurance companies. I won't invoke the California fires. That's an entirely different scenario, but some people's lives have been destroyed just based on their situation with their insurance company. Does the national park present some unique challenges for people? Did you get a sense that there's some red tape standing in the way, or ideally do you see this rebuild hopefully to be as seamlessly as it would be for anybody that might lose a house to fire in the middle of a city?
So the national park is the jewel that the business owners and the residents and the people who work and live there, that's what they sell to the world. And so it is really, really important to keep that park pristine and managed in the case of fires, so we don't have disastrous fires like we have had. But we have to do things that prepare us for that eventuality in a changing climate. But again, I just got the profound sense that they're in it for the long haul. They are committed to their businesses, to their community. It was an inspiring day for me hearing from them on how they saw the future. And to your hotelier's question and concern, that sentiment was very much there, that we need to build back better, that Jasper in 5-10 years needs to be built back better than ever.
Lightning Rod's watching in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says maybe they should use bricks in the rebuild. I was talking to somebody who said, well, maybe we shouldn't have any more cedar shingles.
No, yeah.
Is there talk about building code? Is there build back better could include maybe?
That is exactly right. So it's a fire smart community in and around the town. Some of the fuel that is responsible for some of these wildfires is being cleaned out, and they are one of the leaders in North America in that approach. But there'll be no more wooden decks. There will be changes to the building codes locally. Cedar shakes on the roofs obviously have to go, because it wasn't that the wildfire just mowed through the town, but it was the cinders from the fire that landed on the roofs that set the houses and the businesses on fire. So there will be changes like that. People are going to build back a fire-resistant community, again, that will be built back better into the future.
Had you been out to Jasper before, or was this your first visit?
I've been before, but some years ago,
Yeah.
I've traveled throughout the park system in Alberta and across Canada, in fact, and we are so fortunate in this country to have beautiful places that attract Canadians and attract people from all over the world, and create jobs and economic opportunity.
What struck you the most, or what surprised you the most this visit?
I think it really was the people, from the mayor to the business owners to the residents. It was just that we are here, we're staying here, we're rebuilding. Government, we need your help. Government, let's stay out of the nonsense, and we want you to work together. And I committed to them. I would take that message back to my own government. I will be speaking to provincial ministers next week. And I will certainly extend my hand of cooperation and deliver the message, and I hope they deliver it back to me that we need to work together. This really needs to be a team effort.
Before I thank you for your time, I know you've got other obligations today, but I'd be remiss. I got a cabinet minister sitting here if I didn't ask you just about the very unique dynamic right now between Canada and the United States. I'm not sure if you're directly involved with any of the negotiations around what's happening at the border, but you're definitely sitting around the cabinet table,
right.
and obviously we're all sort of analyzing the ripples in the water around trade and tariffs and everything else. From your perspective, how are you processing what's going on right now?
Well, I'm heartened in a way how Canadians are pulling together, how our governments are pulling together. We've seen Team Canada on display with our premiers, our prime ministers, business leaders, and just ordinary citizens. And so I went to the border with David McGuinty, who is our public safety minister, and saw the efforts there to strengthen our border. We have a strong border, but it can always be stronger. That's a message that we are telegraphing to President Trump and his cabinet. And, I think we'll get through this.
Do you think it's even about the border?
I think it's about the border, and I think it's about other things. And obviously, the elephant in the room is our trading relationship, which has been the envy of the world for the last 20, 30 years. And, we are working with the American administration to show how these tariffs would actually hurt Americans, would stifle trade, and really reduce the prosperity that we all enjoyed, despite the challenges that our two countries have been through.
Minister Terry Duguid is Canada's Minister of Sport. He's recently been appointed the federal lead on Jasper's recovery. He joins us just hours after returning from the beloved mountain town. Thanks for your time, Minister, in studio. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan.
You got it. Real Talkers, I want to remind you that every week on the show, courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper, on Wednesdays, in fact, we present My Jasper Memories. You can catch that. But check this out at jasper.travel. I'm showing you my screen. You can check out the incredible alternatives to staying at home on Family Day weekend. Why not head out to the mountains for Family Day? So many amazing opportunities. The minister's mentioning the restaurants there, the bakeries that are ready for you, the hotels that would love to welcome you with open arms, the skating on the outdoor rinks, the horse and sleigh at Pyramid Lake. I'm just going off the top of my head. Some of my favorite things to do out there. Rockaboo Mountain Adventures has that big ice climbing wall in the middle of the town. So many options. You can learn more by visiting the website. That's jasper.travel. Hey, coming up in March, we're really excited here at Real Talk to be partnering with our friends at UCAN Youth Services for their comedy nights. You can check out their website, in particular, ucancomedy.com. That's where you can book your tickets. You can buy 2 tickets, or you could get a table of 10 and bring your friends. That's what we're doing. All in support of UCAN Youth Services. We're going to have some laughs. It's going to be a great time. But most importantly, we're going to raise funds that will allow them to continue to operate these amazing programs. They work with at-risk 18 to 25-year-olds to get them off these oftentimes destructive pathways and onto pathways of education and employment. It's working. There's proof it's working, but they need your support to keep these programs going. You can find more details at ucan.ca. At California Closets, they've got you covered. If your plan in 2025, if your mission is to get organized and get on track, they've got the best team in the business when it comes to custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home. You can check out their website, californiaclosets.ca, see how they can work with different budgets. They can take different design approaches. There's different styles. Maybe a Murphy bed in your spare bedroom because it's doubling as a home office. Maybe that library you've always wanted. Maybe get the boot room organized, or even the garage. California Closets designs are custom designed to fit your space and your budget. The first consultation's always free at californiaclosets.ca. And if you are headed out to Jasper this weekend, may I invite you, if you're coming from the east, if you're coming from the Metro Edmonton region on Highway 16, make sure you stop in Hinton at Friesen Brothers. They've got their all-day Family Day brunch buffet coming up on February 17th at participating locations. Friesen Brothers is supporting Heart Month through February, which means they've got some great recipes, and they're gathering together as a community, as Friesen Brothers has been doing, bringing people together for 70 years. Still Alberta grown and Alberta owned. The Honourable Ric McIver is Alberta's Minister of Municipal Affairs. The government just announcing an $8 million break, a property tax break for residents of Jasper. Probably the biggest story, though, has been that $112 million pledged with conditions. As we welcome the Minister to the show, thanks for making time for us. Minister, big story here. Everybody says the province wants to get involved in Jasper's rebuild, but it seems as though not everybody's on the same page, the municipality, the province, the feds, on what the rebuild should look like. Take us into it through your perspective.
Well, I think, Ryan, it's a great time for an interview because I think it's getting sorted out right now. We wanted to spend some money to build homes, and it was contingent upon having leases for them, because our objective was to not solve the short and the long-term problem, is to build a bunch of homes, let people whose homes have been damaged or destroyed by fire live in them, pay rent there for however long it takes, and then put the homes on the market to add to the housing stock in Jasper, which we're constantly told they need more housing stock. But anyway, I guess the tougher news is they were never able to get those leases organized with Parks Canada and the federal government. And the good news is the federal government has now appointed a minister who seems to be on the job, and that's very helpful.
So with this pledge, though, this $112 million to build these 250 housing units in Jasper, given Jasper's limited space, how does the provincial government justify the approach to tying the funding to the construction of these permanent single-family homes? Like, are there plans to consider, or is there an open-mindedness to consider more space-efficient housing solutions?
Oh yeah, listen, our housing minister, Minister Nixon, I think he's done a great job on this, and he had his ministry talk to the manufactured homes producers, and everybody was willing to do anything. But the fact is, it's an emergency, so by that, time is important. And the homes that we could get right away were single family. We could have got multifamily homes that would have taken up to a year and a half longer, and that really doesn't fit the scenario of an emergency. So. We didn't have actually a preference whether we did single family or multifamily. It's just that it seemed that multifamily was more instantly accessible. So it is what it is. Sounds like as of yesterday, the federal government wants to build a bunch of housing, which is kind of appropriate. It's in their national park. So we're looking forward to and hoping for good results there.
Yeah, Minister, can you give us a sense of how this all plays out and sort of like just for the civilians like us that are watching this and trying to get a sense of like ultimately who's calling the shots here? People are talking about, well, Parks Canada wants this, or they're overseeing this, right? The municipality wants this, the province wants this, the feds wants this. Take us into the dynamic of those discussions and ultimately like who holds the pen.
Listen, Ryan, let me say this. I think everybody's intentions are good. I don't doubt that. But this is different for us because it's in a national park. So if this was outside of the national park, I guess the municipality would call the shots and our government would have the authority if we needed to decide for them. But this is the federal government has the hammer here because it's in a federal national park. We respect that. Jasper is one of the tourism jewels, not only of Alberta, but of all of Canada. We really want to be part of helping Jasper get back on its feet and get back to what it is and what everybody knows it can be. And I can't, again, let me repeat, yesterday, best news ever. We got a federal minister appointed who's on the job, has a plan, willing to help. So I think things will get better from here on in.
Minister, how's the province supporting the economic recovery of Jasper, particularly in terms of rebuilding infrastructure and supporting local businesses? What role does the province play?
Well, we've committed and spent $178 million, which I think is more than anybody has, although the federal government might be getting close to that with this announcement just yesterday. No, we've had emergency evacuation payments for people. Disaster recovery program is in place. We, along with the federal government, did match what the Red Cross was able to raise in support of Jasper. We had $2.5 million in tourism support to try to get people back to work. We're trying to help rebuild a seniors lodge that was burnt down. $121,000 to the food bank because they were obviously the need was high and the donations were short because there weren't as many people there to donate and more people that needed the help. So we chipped in there and as of yesterday, we've committed to funding to help the town deal with the tax, help the people deal with the taxes they weren't able to pay because they weren't able to be in their home, and help the town deal with the money they won't be able to collect because there's nobody to collect it from. So we're in a number of ways, and we're trying to help, and we'll continue to be there right until Jasper is, we hope, recovered, maybe even better than ever.
Yeah, this is something that I think a lot of people that haven't been impacted by natural disaster don't think about, and that is that residents and businesses are still on the hook per se for property taxes, right? And so if my understanding is correct, this $8 million announced by the province split between basically helping the town out for lost revenue and then kind of helping cover in the interim residents and businesses that are kind of expected to pay property taxes for structures that don't even exist or are gravely destroyed.
That's correct. And we waived the education property tax for the second half of last year, the 5 months, because it's what we've done in past. It's the right thing to do, but it's what also consistent with what we've done when there's been other major fires in Slave Lake and Fort McMurray.
All right, so is this like interim funding? This is a one-time thing? Is this something that the province would look to top up again? I mean, if somebody's still displaced?
No, listen, this is we Jasper may not think we hurried, but we did this in time for our budget this year to deal with last year's taxes, and we've told them that for the 2025 property tax, we'll take a look at that with them again in the upcoming weeks and months. But we wanted to get the 2024 stuff done because that actually affects Jasper's ability to put a budget on the table for 2025. I know they're going to be anxious to talk to us about the 2025 taxes, and we'll be there to talk to them about it. But we got this much done so that they don't have, them and their residents don't have a bunch of unpaid taxes hanging over their head from last year. And we'll be with them as long as it takes to get Jasper back on its feet.
Minister, before I thank you for your time, I spoke with Premier shortly after the fire this past summer. She was on her way out to Jasper, I think, to see it for the first time. And she indicated in that short interview a concern that Parks Canada might try to shrink the footprint of Jasper. Parks Canada might interfere with what might be, in her estimation or in her opinion, an intuitive rebuild, a forward-looking rebuild to the town. Is that still of concern to the provincial government? Can you comment on the role that Parks Canada is playing and any concerns that the Alberta government has?
Listen, we accept the fact that the federal government directly, or in Parks Canada, even I suppose even more directly, have authority there. We respect their authority. We don't really know what they're going to do, but we were left to speculate a little bit because we tried awful hard to get the leases for the homes that we hope to build, and we were never able to do that. But perhaps they always had a plan that that we just finding out about now with the new minister appointed, and the fact that the new minister, I can't remember the number, $160 million or something for housing. That should be a substantial contribution, and that's up to Parks Canada, whether and the federal government, whether they shrink the town site, whether they grow the town site. They have a complete authority on all that stuff. So we'll work with them, and we acknowledge it's their primary authority, and we'll be as helpful as we can.
Ric McIver is Alberta's Minister of Municipal Affairs. Thanks for joining us on short notice. We appreciate it.
Ryan, enjoy your day. It's been nice to be here.
Will do. Thanks, Minister. Real Talkers, let us know what you think about this. To talk at ryanjesperson.com. We've now heard from the federal minister. That's the provincial minister. And in just a second, we'll talk to Jasper's mayor on this. Richard Ireland, I mean, this is the guy that lives there. This is the guy that is representing his constituents and has more of a vested interest, can we say, in how Jasper rebuilds. I wonder how he'll respond to the $8 million from the province. I would imagine they'll welcome that for a relatively smaller community like Jasper. $3 million in lost revenue for property taxes is a big hole blown in your budget. There's that to start. How about this from Tony joining us in the live chat? Tony, she says, I wonder if the guest from yesterday's panel, she's talking about Curtis Herdlicka, who was part of our panel on how businesses are America-proofing themselves. We love that. An Entrepreneurs Real Talk Roundtable. This was on our February the 6th episode. Curtis joining us. Honomobo is the brand of housing. It's like modular housing that they do. These steel frame, really beautiful, modern-looking homes. Tony says, I wonder if the guest from that panel with modular homes could help with the rebuild. She says, I know he said his homes wouldn't work, but I'm sure he has ideas that would help. I bet he does, Tony. And obviously, if you want to talk about, you can't fireproof a community, but certainly they're more fire resistant. They're really, really interesting designs. You can check out that interview. I encourage you to watch the whole episode yesterday. I'm showing it to you right now, but Curtis joining us from Honomobo and basically talking to us about the future of these homes. Everybody loves them. They're not technically these sea cans, the shipping containers. That's how they got their start. They're not using them anymore. They're now just steel frame construction, but fascinating approaches to building and to building efficiently, and obviously homes that would last a long time. I think what Curtis was alluding to on the show yesterday, Johnny, I don't know if you got this point, but it seemed to me like he was thinking it might be more like the design of the homes that wouldn't fit the vibe or the look of Jasper. Mm-hmm. My guess is, we'll ask Mayor Ireland about this in a second. I'm guessing that people aren't going to be invited to build these super ultra modern looking homes in Jasper, but I don't know. What do I know? Everybody's got an opinion on how the town should be rebuilt. I see some of you here in the live chat saying there should be on all commercial properties a minimum of 3 stories. I mean, people have all different kinds of ideas. I understand and recognize that a lot of the hoteliers out there would like to build their properties back differently than they were in the first place, but there's implications to all of this, right? Some people might be looking at this, and we'll get into it with Mayor Ireland. Some people are looking at this like this is, and you got to be careful. I guess now 6 months have passed. I want to be really careful using this word, but because some people have lost everything. They've lost their homes, their businesses. You want to be really careful when you use a word like opportunity, but there is an opportunity for this mountain town, which is heavily reliant on tourism and is one of the most wonderful and beautiful tourist destinations in North America, to really look and say, where is the future of tourism going over the next 50 to 100 years? Johnny, you're showing that. I think it's called, what's it called? The Columbia Ice Walk? Is that what that is? Remember that kind of stuff went in?
It's called scary, but beautiful.
Have you ever gone on it, by the way? But that's a great example of something like
it's exhilarating.
From a tourism standpoint. What an incredible installation. What a really neat opportunity.
Amazing.
And then there were people that were outraged when that was built.
Of course.
Saying, what is steel and glass doing bolted into the side of a mountain that has no place there? So you have some people going, we should rebuild Jasper to be able to accommodate twice as many people. The market is there. Just think of what it could do. It could and then there's other people going, that is the last thing we want. That is the last thing we want, to double the population of Jasper, to bring in even more people. So everybody's got an opinion on this. Ultimately, whose opinion matters most? Probably people that live and work there, probably people that have been there for decades and decades. But when it is a national park, I mean, I keep calling it a crown jewel because that's how I feel about it. Everybody kind of feels like it's partly theirs. Right? Like if there's a big fire, no offense, I ran into somebody from Fort McMurray yesterday. I just love connecting with audience members. And they were talking about, recollecting the fort. I told them what the show was about today. And they were going, gosh, Fort McMurray, we remember that. And they were describing that. Albertans rallied and united. And Slave Lake's another example. Waterton's another example. Calgary during the floods in 2013, another example. Everybody rallies to help their fellow Albertans or to help their fellow Canadians. But then when it's a national park, everybody's kind of got opinions on how it should be rebuilt. I didn't see a lot of people arguing about or musing about how Fort McMurray should rebuild. It just wasn't a thing. With Jasper, it is. It's a totally different dynamic. If you live and work in Jasper, we'd really love to hear from you. To talk at ryanjesperson.com. You can also just leave a comment on our YouTube episode or catch us in the live chat, powered by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider. We're going to get to Jasper's mayor in just a second, but first I want to remind you what's going on at Athabasca University. Incredible opportunities for Canadians. And heck, you know what? You don't even have to be living in Canada. That's the beauty of AU. It's Canada's open university. Wherever you are, AU's there for you with world-class accredited online degrees and courses designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. That means if you need to get away for a month, maybe it's a mental health break, maybe you're going to go help your parents. Mom's just had a knee surgery and you're going to be there for her. You need to put your studies on hold. You're not going to fall behind because you're dictating the pace of your studies. That said, on the flip side, you want to fast forward? You want to rip through the first year of your undergrad, or you want to get that MBA done as soon as you can? You are selecting your path. You make it happen. That's why so many alumni sing the praises of Athabasca University. More than 90% say they're satisfied with their experience. You can learn more about the AU Advantage by checking out athabascau.ca. And all this talk about rebuilding, all this talk about bouncing back, resilience. I mean, this is what Complete Care Restoration is making happen every single day for people across the province that are managing, in some cases, the unimaginable, right? Flooding, sewer backups, pipes bursting in the middle of winter, whatever it is, when disaster strikes, heaven forbid. You're going to want to make sure you remember the name Complete Care Restoration. For more than 25 years, they've been restoring properties, rebuilding peace of mind. They'll deal directly with your insurance company so you can take it off your plate. Focus on what matters most, your family, your customers. We recommend wholeheartedly. We've worked with them and are proud to endorse Complete Care Restoration. For those of you that are on the job hunt right now, you're either unemployed or maybe just underemployed, or maybe you're at a job where you're giving it your all every single day, but You're mailing it in. Cody would love to talk to you if you have passion, if you are interested, really keenly interested in being a part of a team that is integrating renewable solutions, creating sustainable energy systems with solar power, carbon offsets, and utility solutions. I want to direct you to kubi.ca. They're currently hiring right now in Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, and Kamloops. Employment opportunities in all 4 of those Canadian cities. Check out the careers link today at kubi.ca. And another shout out to Marshall McAllister. Marshall's the president at North Road Investment Council. He joined us a few days ago on the show to give us a sense of what the markets were telling us about the impact of Trump's tariffs threats and ultimately where he thinks the Canadian dollar is going to go. You and I both commented, I love that Marshall can take sort of high-level finance stuff and make it accessible to us everyday folks. Right, helped us understand why the Canadian dollar is doing what it is doing right now and what it means for your investments, for your wealth management. If what Marshall said resonated with you, if you liked the cut of his jib, so to speak, I'd recommend you reach out to him and his team. You can check out their YouTube channel, check out their Instagram, figure out more about who they are and upcoming events by visiting their website at North Road IC. That's North Road Investment Council. Alberta Ganger in the live chat watching us on YouTube today. What's up, Alberta Ganger? Says, I don't agree with expanding the town site's footprint, but they should be building up density like in those European alpine towns. Let's find out. Let's check in anyway with Jasper's Mayor, His Worship Richard Ireland. A meeting with the federal representatives just a number of hours ago and joining us live. It's nice to see your face again. How are you holding up? I heard it from a little birdie. You were just under the knife, a knee surgery. You're doing all right?
I'm doing well enough. Yes, thanks.
Oh, good stuff. A season off the ski hill, though, I guess.
It will be. I don't think I'll be recovered to get up to the slopes of Marmot here this year, but it will wait for me. It'll be there again next year.
Good stuff. How would you describe a new face, I guess, representing the federal government in Jasper's recovery? We talked to the Minister, Terry Duguid, here just a few moments ago. You talked to him yesterday as they make the big announcement, $160 million. In your estimation, is it the right move? Is the money going to the right place? Are you satisfied with the direction of it?
Well, certainly the money that's going to interim housing is absolutely going to the right place. Housing, as we've consistently said, is the foundation of all of our recovery here. It's the foundation of social recovery. It's the foundation of our economic recovery. So housing is critical, interim housing in particular, to get the workforce back, to get people back into the community and connecting again. That's critical. And there's $30 million of the amount that was announced yesterday is going straight into interim housing. And so, yes, that's most welcome and so critical.
We're getting a ton of questions. Mayor, I don't have to tell you that we've got one of the most engaged talk audiences in the country here. And the recurring theme in our live chat today is interim housing, temporary housing, displaced residents. Can you give us a sense of how that's playing out, what the deficit looks like right now and where people are living as best you know?
Well, people are living wherever they can right now. Ryan, that is part of the resilience that we've talked about of the people of Jasper, and they have found solutions for themselves. We are doing what we can to provide more opportunities for them. Some people are living in hotels in Jasper now because they don't have homes. Others have found accommodation within homes, in basements, wherever they can. There's still a large number of our residents, though, who are living elsewhere. There's a number in Hinton. They are spread out throughout the province, and they're anxious to come home as soon as that opportunity is available. And so the land has been serviced now since late November, early December. We've had service land available for interim housing, and it looks now that it will start to appear as early as next week, and that will be such a welcome relief for so many people.
Well, Alberta Ganger, one of our viewers right now live on YouTube, said they'd like to see Jasper build up more like the European mountain towns. There's a lot of talk about density and the like. My understanding is that the municipality wants to see more residential density and the province doesn't. And that's the hang up on this $112 million that's been promised. What's actually going on?
Well, we had already committed with Parks Canada to higher density and residential development long before this fire ever hit. We understand that there are obligations being a community in a national park. In fact, in all of Canada, there are only 2 incorporated municipalities in national parks. We're one of them. Our town boundary is set in federal legislation, so not an easy thing to change at all. So recognizing all of that, we understood that if we are to deal with our growth pressures, then we needed higher density. So we already had plans for that in place. And since the fire, Parks Canada has taken the really receptive news to increase the requirement for density so that we can house more people in the same amount of land and make better use of the land that we have. So density certainly has been an issue for us, and it's a favorite approach here.
Yeah, my impression here, and I haven't been out there for a few weeks. I feel like I'm relying on news coverage of what's happening right now, but we're seeing words like impasse and at odds, describing the relationship between the municipality and the province. My understanding is that, your team has suggested that of these 250 homes that the province has promised, or the province wants built, they say, given limited space to build, they can only build 60 of the 250. And there's also really questions around the interim housing and who should pay for that and that sort of a thing. How would you characterize the spirit of the relationship? And do you see, Mr. McIver just told us that he feels like everybody's getting onto the same page. Do you share that vision? Do you feel like everybody's getting closer together and on the same page, or is there still a lot of work to be done?
Well, we've always been on that page, Ryan. From the start, we have been prepared to collaborate with anyone who wants to come and assist Jasper in its recovery. And that includes, of course, with respect to interim housing. And so, yes, the province had come to the table. They were offering modular housing for interim housing, but then they wanted that to be of a more permanent style, which is also something that we need. They were looking for long-term leases, and in their view, not enough land available. We had no objection to the housing style that they had offered, or certainly the number, the 250. That certainly would have been a nice attribute to our other plans. But to only get 60 on the limited land available was not workable, and they are still at the table, as you saw yesterday. Minister McIver came up with another $8 million to help us recover, and that is so much appreciated. And so, yes, I think that the sense of collaboration remains, but that has always been our sense. We're prepared to collaborate with anyone who wants to come to our assistance and help our community recover.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation. Jasper's long experienced a 0% vacancy rate. And so I guess you understand, especially with opportunities, tourism opportunities and the like, and as people look to return back, you sort of hope that that's the type of thing that could be addressed. But with the housing crunch now just so exacerbated, you just understand, we try to wrap our minds around as outsiders looking in. I mean, the absolute crunch that the town is facing. How are you navigating that on a month-to-month basis as the mayor?
Well, it is a challenge. And of course, we have really good people in our joint recovery. Now I've got the JRCC, the Joint Recovery Coordination Center. Those people are doing just phenomenal work, getting us moving along day by day, month by month. And the task is almost overwhelming, but we've got professionals on the job, and they cut it down into bite-sized chunks, and we're getting through it. But before the fire, we had a deficit of around 600 housing units. We lost another 820 housing units through the fire. So the need is just exacerbated, as you say. In addition to that, we have to think about how we're going to house the necessary workforce that has to come in to help us rebuild. So there will be hundreds of other workers that need to come in to rebuild the buildings that have been destroyed by the fire. So we have to house residents, then we have to house that other workforce that's required. So the challenge is immense, but it's not insurmountable, and we will get there, and we will get there with the assistance, the continued assistance of our other partners, including the federal government and the provincial government.
This is kind of a weird question, but I would acknowledge that one of the most incredible things about Jasper is that it's this town of amazing people, amazing businesses. The scenery cannot be topped in a national park. It's such a unique situation. That's what makes it very cool. Does Jasper's status, though, as a municipality in a national park, kind of hurt it at a time like this? At a time where there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of stakeholders, there's a lot of eyes on it. Is it actually kind of making life a little bit more difficult on the rebuild, being in the park?
I would not say that being a community in a national park is ever a detriment. It is a great place to be, Ryan. And yes, it adds some challenges even before the fire. Of course, being in a multi-jurisdictional venue has its challenges. We're dealing with the federal government and the provincial government on issues all the time, and we always have. But we're used to that. It's a little more challenging, I think, when those two parties have to work with each other. But we are used to working with both levels of government. It's the nature of the business. But being in a national park is really a wonderful thing, and that's what attracts people to our community. So yes, with that advantage comes some challenges, but those are challenges that we're used to dealing with, and we'll continue to deal with them.
That of that $8 million that the province promised or committed yesterday, my understanding is about $3 million of it will top up the town's coffers, basically the revenue that was lost from property taxes from July onward. How significant is that $3 million in the context of your total budget? What sort of a position does that put Jasper in right now? Does it get you to like into next month kind of idea? And is this the type of thing that you might be looking for another wave of funding from the province a few months from now again?
Well, as Minister McIver indicated, the funding that was announced yesterday relates to our 2024 budget year, so the year that's behind us. After the provincial budget comes out later this month, then we will talk again, as Minister McIver suggested we would, about subsequent years, so 2025, 2026, and probably into 2027. The really important issue with respect to the 2024 announcement of yesterday is the benefit that will have to our taxpayers. So recognizing the hurt that everybody was under because of the fire. It was after taxes would have been due in mid-July, and so lots of people would have paid up their taxes. We will be able to issue refunds. We forgave rent for all of August, essentially for the period of evacuation for everybody, because nobody could make use of any of their property, whether residential or non-residential property. But we can now continue with tax breaks for our people from last year to allow them an opportunity to recover. So it's less important necessarily for our own municipal finances, but as another way that we can help our own taxpayers get through this tragedy of both the loss of their property, whether residential or business, and the loss of income that they have suffered.
Mayor, last time I was out there just a few weeks ago, I had a chance to talk to a local who was painting a picture for me on how life is a little bit different in the national park. There's a lot of ways it's different. I don't get to wake up every morning, look outside and see Pyramid Mountain and Edith Cavell out my window, but they were saying, there's things people don't think about. Like, we can't pile up firewood against the side of our house, even though we'd like to. We can't have we can get our knuckles wrapped if we have like crabapple trees. We want to have crab apples all over the lawn, but it brings in wildlife and those sorts of things. Things that city slickers might not think about. We talked a little bit to the federal minister about code, about roofing, maybe different siding that's used, those sorts of things in light of fireproofing a community. I want to acknowledge, and you and I have talked about this in past, that some people I think are glossing over or unaware that Jasper has been doing fire safe measures for like 30 years, right? Under former fire chief Van Tighem and others. It's been happening for quite some time, but with the rebuild, and even with the existing structures in town, I'm not expecting that somebody with a perfectly fine dwelling is going to be expected to strip the cedar shakes off their house and replace them. But does Jasper require, or will there be a pretty significant rethink of how the community and the municipality itself fire smarts? Will it be doubling down even more, taking even more serious measures moving forward?
That has already begun, in fact, Ryan, and it's absolutely critical, and you're right to point that out. And so at the time when Bill C-76 was going through Parliament, so that is the act that is really meaningful from our perspective, because ultimately it will be used to transfer jurisdiction over land use and planning development to the community. But in the context of all of that, Parks Canada has worked with our municipal planning team to come up with new guidelines for building, and many of those, in fact, most of them, are focused on more resilient housing styles and materials. And so gone will be any opportunities for cedar shingle roofs and for vinyl siding and things like that. Houses have to be made to withstand a degree of fire far more than they were in the past. And so, yes, I know that earlier today you hesitated to use the word opportunity, but it's not wrong at all to use that term. This is an opportunity to do better in the future, and we've already taken that opportunity, and those steps are underway. So we will have more resilient structures in the future based on the rebuild and the new design criteria.
Well, I hold you in high regard, and I'm glad that I didn't offend you by invoking the word opportunity, because I do think that there is one. There's a huge one. And I meant what I said about how Canadians feel about this town and the people that live there. It's a beloved town. I say it on purpose. And I appreciate your availability. Is there anything, before I thank you for your time, anything that we haven't touched on, anything I've not asked you about that you want to make sure that this audience is aware of?
I just like people to make sure that they are aware that we are here. We are still a welcoming destination. We're open. I know that you visited, Ryan. You indicated that it's maybe been a few weeks since you were last here, but we are open. We're ready to receive visitors and give them the welcome that we always have. And we're ready for them. We're ready for the rebuild. We're ready to get back to where we were. But in the meantime, we're still available, and we invite you and all Albertans and Canadians to keep coming to Jasper to assist us in our recovery.
Love it. Marianne's watching us on YouTube right now, says, I continue to be really impressed with this mayor. Hopefully that fills your bucket today, Richard. Thanks for talking to us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Ryan. Thank you.
All right, you got it. That's Richard Ireland joining us just off a knee surgery, live from Jasper. So there's the municipality's perspective on this. No one's really lobbing bombs at each other here. You kind of get the sense that there's a lot of stakeholders here, right? And ultimately, what everybody wants is the displaced residents. Keep in mind, what was it? I think it was something like 600 structures, 600 families were displaced. I mean, the number is absolutely astronomical. So obviously, that needs to get back. And then these businesses as well. And the mayor's absolutely correct when he says, right now, I'm quoting reporting this is Matthew Skase with CP with the Canadian Press, 600 Jasper families currently without homes. So it gives you a perspective on what these people are dealing with right now. I saw somebody in the chat say, where are these people right now? Where are these families? And people are just figuring it out. I mean, I guarantee some of you are watching or listening right now. You are one of these families, right? Are you in Valemount? Are you in Hinton? Are you with family now in Edmonton? Are you trying to find your way back to Jasper? I know that construction is starting on some of these locations, some of these spots, which is amazing news, but still it's a huge amount of work to be done. And this is a commitment that we make to continue to tell these stories and remind you, like the mayor just did, that Jasper is ready. You might say, Jasper's just hammering this home. Why is he hammering this home? Because we have personal friends and people we care about deeply that are running businesses out there, people that care deeply about it. If you're watching us right now, Johnny's showing this video. We were so proud to work, our family was, with the team at Tourism Jasper to put together a little vignette on why the town means so much to us. Actually, can I throw you a curveball? Can I throw you a loop? Would it be possible?
Do you want to hear it?
Can we hear it from start to finish? Do you want it? Why wouldn't we do this?
I need to go to the bathroom anyways.
I need to top up my coffee.
I love
anyway.
this video.
Right?
Let's do it.
And they did such a beautiful job. I think even if you're listening on the podcast, even just the audio of it. So here it is in 2.5 minutes or less, our family's love letter to Jasper. Jasper has just been such a huge part of so many major moments for us as a family. And part of that is intentional. And part of that, I think, is just because special things happen when we're out here. A huge part of Wyatt's childhood memories have been on skates and getting active in Jasper. He understands that Lake Mildred is a special place. He understands and remembers, probably not his first skate like we remember it, but he understands that that's a really special part of the national park. And he's always keen to put on his skates and get back on Mildred. The family friendliness of Marmot Basin is one of the reasons why we love coming there. We've had some perfect days out there, sometimes on our own, sometimes together as a crew, and you don't get that at all the mountains. For us, Jasper's not just a vacation destination. For us, Jasper is not just one option of many. Jasper is an essential part of our family's experience through the year. And we get out here as much as we can because we know what happens when we're out here. And those types of things don't happen anywhere else. The Fairmont property for us is just, it feels like almost sacred ground, to be honest with you. We have visited there as a new couple. We were there as part of our honeymoon. We've been there through laughter. We've been there through loss. The Fairmont for us has been just the most perfect place. I don't know, in a way it feels like it meets us where we're at. And it would be almost impossible for me to recount all the memories. There's just that many of them. There's an authenticity to Jasper that I don't think you get anywhere else. And that's one of the reasons why we keep coming back. So there you have it. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. That was a lot of fun.
That was nice.
Someone said that was very calming.
It was. I felt like after all this talk, I mean, it's great to see that Jasper is getting their act together and everyone's coming together to rebuild. But it was seeing those pictures again. Every time I see them, it's just like it brings back all those memories of the time when it was going on. I mean, it was hard to do shows. It was hard to get up in the morning and go to work and then know that these people are losing everything they've known and worked for. So that was a nice breath of fresh air. Thank you, Ryan.
Tracy says, why am I tearing up watching this?
Right?
And we have filmmaker Mariah Braun in the chat who's giving a shout out to the sound design. She says they're tearing up because it's damn good. Stephanie, by the way, Stephanie, we just saw your $10 in the super chat. Thank you for that. She says to the best podcast group, the best live chat. She says,
Hey.
I love that video. You can watch it, by the way. It's part of their Venture Beyond series. If you go check out their YouTube channel, Tourism Jasper's YouTube channel. She says, my kids grew up skiing at Marmot. I had them in the big bowls by age 7. Way to go, Steph. I love that. Les, I want to acknowledge I saw your $5 in the super chat asking for a question of the mayor. I didn't see it till after. I apologize, but Les has concerns around accessibility, wheelchair accessibility and the like in Jasper.
Sure.
That's something they got to
It'd
think
be good
about.
to level up.
And using the word opportunity, that's an example of where you say this is an opportunity to forward think on things like accessibility, on density, and
Sure,
the like. So
yeah.
appreciate that, and that's a really great point from everybody. And I also want to acknowledge that not all of our times in Jasper are calming either. Like Vamp Fashions is bang on when they say the only thing they must save in all of Jasper is the Athabasca Hotel, Bar, and Tavern, the Athabee. Vamp Fashion says we all have priorities. Johnny and I have both been at the Athabee, and we were not calm at all.
I was just going to say, my time at the Athabee was raising the roof.
My heart rate was up.
I think everyone has this, whether it's the Athabee or the Skywalk or whatever they call it. We just had, or the hiking or Maline Canyon or all these memories. Everyone has a special memory. Mine is just me and my buddy Trip at the Athabasca Bee, and it was our first time, either of us DJing, hosting, playing a show. We did a drum and DJ, and just it's whether you're just coming through or you live there, like the community is so welcoming, and it was just one of the best nights of our life. I'll never forget that night, and every time I go there, I get that nostalgia feeling. You just smell the air when you go there, and it brings you back to other times when you've been there, and it's just, it really is. I know it seems cliche, but Jasper is an incredibly magical place.
Yeah, Wobbly Ink in the chat says, your buddy Moses made it into the video. That's so sweet. He did. Like, I just got this, like, just this rush of, it's a good thing. We miss him so much. Our beautiful 12-year-old boxer who we said goodbye to a short time after filming that, actually. But you're right, Wobbly Ink. How cool, and the memories we have with Moses. He used to, he's so funny. Moses, he's a city dog, right? Like Moses didn't always do great in the wilderness because boxers, or if you know boxers, their personality, they're lunatics, basically. But every time that we'd get out into the park, and as soon as you sort of get close to Jasper, you get close to your accommodations, we'd roll down the back window in the truck, and Moses would perk up, and his nose, his snout would just be out, and he's just like, he would know he was coming to Jasper, you know.
It's
so
incredible.
very
Steph
cool
says
stuff.
on here, the ramifications of going to the Athabee.
Oh, the Athabee, man! I reckon, anybody that doesn't know, and the lobby of it, the lobby in the Athabee is pretty wild as well. Right? It's like a taxidermy museum, basically. If I remember off the top of my head, I think they have there's is it a golden eagle or something in there? I think there's, if I remember correctly, I might be imagining it, but I think there's a Wolverine in there. There's certainly there's a big ram in there, and I mean, it's amazing. If you need a little break from the live music from the dance floor, you go step into the lobby for like 5 minutes and just look around until they kick you out. It's one of my favorite Jasper pastimes. Also, I just wanted to give a shout out. I had a neat run-in yesterday, and sometimes those of you, Johnny and I tell you all the time, unless it's obvious, if you ever see me like crying in public or something, don't come up. Just start TikTok, just start filming it and putting me live. But in all seriousness, people come up or they'll write in and say, I saw you out, but I didn't want to say hi. And we say, no. We want to hear from you. We want to meet you. We want to know what you like about the show, etc.
100%. We're approachable.
You know, so I'm at this lunch meeting yesterday, and as I'm walking to the table, I hear somebody be like, Jasper. And I look over and I don't recognize her. She introduces herself. Her name's Christina. She is a daily listener to the podcast. She says, I listen to Real Talk to the pod every single day while she's working out. Real Talk gets her through her workout. And we snapped a quick photo, had a quick chat. She's a teacher. Shout out to all the teachers. And I said, well, Christina, you will get your shout out on Friday's Real Talk. But I just wanted to mention I had a chance, and I let her know that just a few hours after she and I met, I had a chance last night to deliver the keynote at a dinner. These couple of days, it's a big PD day. It's a big gathering for the Public School Boards Association of Alberta. You can check out what they do online at public-schools.ab.ca or just Google PSBAA. This is a group, an amazing group of people, and I'm showing you the website right now. You can read, a message from their president and basically what they're doing to renew their commitment to public school education in Alberta. But I had a chance to speak to this crew last night about the state of public education in Alberta, some of the threats to public education, and I did something for the very first time in my life. I came home, do a lot of speaking things, do a lot of hosting things, and so when you get home, it's oftentimes how it is. Like if you're in a family unit or you have a roommate or whatever it is, if you're doing the same thing all the time, they don't always ask how it goes, or they say, how did it go, and you say fine. Like, Johnny, how was your DJ set? Yeah, it was fine.
Every time.
Like, you've done it, but it was fine.
Yeah.
I came home and I was just raving last night. I said to my wife, I said, I did something I've never done before. So I walk into this room and they seat me at kind of, I don't know if it's the head table, but the table with, a bunch of the bigwigs here at this thing. And we start talking, and all of a sudden, have you ever been in a situation like this where the conversation just gets so serious right away? Like in the first 3 minutes of talking, we're getting into like our educational history and like how church factored into it and the community makeup and some of the challenging situations we had and the teacher we just couldn't get along. Like we are starting to like spill. We're just sharing at this table as the dinner's being served. And I may be like 20 minutes away from when I'm due to be up on the podium. And as we're talking, I'm going like, these people are passionate about this subject matter and what we're covering, and none of this is in my keynote. Like I just almost felt in the moment like my speech is about all the wrong things.
Did you pull an audible?
So I pulled an audible,
there you go.
And I get up, and I just wanted to give a shout out to this association and to these folks that joined us. They're still at it this morning. They're still at the Hilton Doubletree in West Edmonton today on their second set of, the second round of these plenary sessions, and they're learning all kinds of things, the brain formation and development in children, like all the things that you want your trustees to be schooled on and to know more about. And so I go up. And they introduce me, and I go up to the podium, and I just sort of start doing like I guess a comedian. I'm not a comedian, but a comedian would maybe call it crowd work. Like I'm kind of just bouncing some ideas off the crowd, and they're so engaged. And then all of a sudden, one of the guys gets up, one of these trustees, and just volunteers to be like the mic guy. And so he's running from table to table with the mic, and we're bouncing ideas, and we're talking. So I was scheduled to give a 40-minute keynote. I didn't touch my notes.
Nice.
I didn't read a single. I've never done this before. I wish I wouldn't have put work
Turned
into
into a Q&A?
Turned it into like a conversation. We ended up going for 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours, and just absolutely, these folks are just passionate about public education. And one of the themes we took away from, which I thought was really great, because in Alberta right now, and I know that members of this audience are probably split on how you feel about education options for families, education funding. I guarantee the majority of this audience is bullish on protecting and properly funding public education for sure. But I also know that there are people in this audience, myself included, who have some personal experience with things like private schools or charter schools or homeschooling or whatever it is. And the provincial government right now is pretty open to that. They're pretty supportive of that, arguably more supportive of education alternatives for families than any other government in Alberta's history. Now, you could probably fact check me on that, but if you look at the concessions the government's made and how it's structuring its funding, all of this means that funds are being diverted away from public schools. And as more options arise in some jurisdictions, there was a trustee from High Prairie that was in the House last night, and she was sharing their concerns. She says, listen, it's maybe not a big deal in a city of 1 million people like Calgary or Edmonton if a charter school pops up and 20 or 30 or 40 families go to that charter school. She says, but in our community, if all of a sudden you have a private or a charter option and all of a sudden 50 or 60% of the public school families all of a sudden leave, then the school loses a huge chunk of funding and it can't operate. She says there are like existential threats to public schools and to the health and the quality of these public schools in many Alberta communities. It was one of the most incredible, inspiring conversations I've ever been a part of as a professional host. I wanted to give a shout out to this group and to put this in front of Real Talkers and get your brains going. So I wanted to challenge them last night. And I said, you may not like this, you may not appreciate this, but I said, I don't think. They said, what's public? What can public schooling advocates for public schooling, trustees, supporters, parents do better? And I said, I think that you've lost control of the narrative, because I feel like right now, Coles notes that advocates or supporters, champions of public education are trying to convince people. The word choice is invoked a lot, right? The word choice is a loaded word. When you're talking about like women's health options, you look at how the word choice is invoked and how that changed the conversation, right? You look at the word, choice in education. Well, it's hard to argue against choice. It's hard to tell people, especially in a province like Alberta. Look at how we, off the top of my head, run our liquor stores as opposed to all the other provinces. Alberta's big on choice. We love for people to have choice. And so when your argument is that you shouldn't need choice, or we don't support choice for parents when it comes to their kids' education, it's a losing battle. It's a hard fight to wage. So I think that advocates of public education need to take control of the narrative. They need to find a different angle. They need to remind people about the value of public education and how the return on that public investment is manifesting itself, right? Time after time after time last night. Trust me, I wouldn't have sat there for 2 hours. I wouldn't have been there for 2 hours if it wasn't banger comment after banger comment from people who care very deeply about it. So I wanted to give a shout out today to Christina, who I met at lunch. She's one of many, many teachers in the province that are doing an amazing job. And I wanted to give a shout out to the Public School Boards Association of Alberta as well, and the elected trustees there. They clearly care very deeply about what they do. And it was a huge honor to hang out with them last night. A shout out to all of them. You can send us an email if you have a thought on this, on education funding, on education options, on the future of public education, to talk at ryanjesperson.com. Before we get to the flamethrower, and we have a banger today. By the way, there is obviously a big story developing in Alberta right now. Basically the boss of Alberta's health services fired by the province just a couple of days before she was set to talk to Alberta's Auditor General. Another restructuring of the AHS board and questions around things like procurement, private surgeries, and the like. Carrie Tate broke this story And we're going to be following up on it. There is an inclusion or a take on this story in this week's edition of the Flamethrower. But before we get there, I did also want to remind you, Super Bowl Sunday is coming up. And if you don't have plans, John, here's a live look to the On the Rocks website. If you're anywhere near the Metro Edmonton region, I want to invite you to join us Super Bowl Sunday at On the Rocks on Jasper Avenue. Go to ontherocksyeg.com. I'll link to it in the show notes. Click on the Super Bowl party, and there you'll find the information. I'm so excited to be hosting. A $30 ticket gets you in, guaranteed seating, an all-you-can-eat tailgate buffet, a prepaid Moosehead beer, a commemorative t-shirt, and entry to all the prizes. That's right, all of that for just $30. Yeah, I said all-you-can-eat. Yeah, I did. And they're giving away $1,000. And by the way, there's no conditions on the all-you-can-eat. There's no small print like, you can only go up to the table once.
I can bring a wheelbarrow and
Buddy,
just leave with it?
You can bring a backpack lined with plastic and fill it with pulled pork.
All right, I'm taking your word for it. I'm bringing Tupperware.
That last part is probably not true. But everything else I'm telling you is a $1,000 cash prize at the end of the game. You got to be there to win. It's going to be so much fun. I'm looking right now. They have 15 tickets left. It's going to sell out. Started at 150. There's 10% of the tickets are left. They're obviously going to sell before Sunday. That's On the Rocks Yag, the Rockin' Bowl Super Party. I'm excited to host it. I'd love to see you there, Real Talkers, at On the Rocks, coming up on Super Bowl Sunday.
Go sports. Everyone just have fun.
Who do you think's winning the Super Bowl?
I think it's gonna be a three-peat. You know me, I'm a Dolphins fan. I don't want anyone to win. I mean, it would be nice to see a very competitive match and possibly see the Eagles get close or maybe even beat Mahomes. But that team is just. This is what happens with football. Football isn't like hockey, for example, where like. On any given night, the worst team can beat the best team, depending on how tired you are, how you've been training. Football's a lot different. From the onset of the first few weeks of football, you can tell who's going to – I mean, the Eagles look great. Chiefs look great. Chiefs have looked great for 2-3 years, right? But, of course, it would be great to see the Eagles beat the Chiefs, but I think it's going to be the Chiefs again.
Yeah, I should mention, by the way, Christina, who I met, the Real Talker, the teacher, her lunch date was wearing the Eagles lid. He had the Eagles lid going. So I thought, well, maybe that's a sign. I don't know.
We'll be seeing Kevin Hart, intoxicated on TV for sure again.
Yeah.
But we'll also be seeing, I predict, Taylor Swift and Kelsey with a big smooch after the win.
We'll see. That could be kind of his last hurrah, right? He's kind of nearing the end of his career.
Well, I mean, football, it's you get out much younger, but also like once you three-peat, that's never. Three-peats never happen in a row.
In the NFL?
No, the Patriots had that big run, but they had a break where they lost after 2. But I think a three-peat has never happened or hasn't happened for a very long time. Four-peat's like impossible. So especially in this day and age with that.
Yeah, they say that only one player in NFL history. It's Ken Norton Jr. I remember Kenny Norton Jr. with the 49ers. The only player in NFL history to pull off a Super Bowl three-peat, but no team has ever accomplished it.
No team has ever done it.
So there you go.
I'd see it happening this year, and then them kind of. Yeah, I mean, there's only so long you can keep winning and winning and winning before another team figures out what you're doing, and more draft picks come in, and it's such a highly competitive industry in football. It's just insane.
I didn't know this, but the Green Bay Packers won the 1965 NFL title the year before winning the first 2 Super Bowls. So technically they won 3 championships in a row.
But in modern football,
not 3 Super Bowls.
It's absolutely insane. It'd be like someone winning the Stanley Cup 3 years in a row. It just wouldn't happen.
It's amazing when it happens.
The kids are just. They're the way they train and just like.
You don't think Edmonton could do it?
Well, maybe. But we were talking about just how like nowadays players comparatively, like they don't smoke, they don't drink. They take a few weeks in the summer to chill or whatever, but they practice like crazy. If they have a bad year the year before, they show up early for camp. It's absolutely insane.
It's not just young adults, like kids, period. And when I say kids, I'm talking about like 18 to 30-year-olds don't drink. Like I was talking to a bar owner in the city of Edmonton, and they're talking about they're revamping their concept, and they're reinventing their bar from kind of geared more toward the younger crowd, like the 18 to 30. They're now gearing it toward like I would say, based on what it looks like in the bar, probably the 30 to 50 crowd. And he was showing me, I don't have the graph in front of me or we'd put it on screen, but there's research that shows that young people that are polled drinking, and this is not a bad thing, obviously, drinking's down like 50+% over 20 years ago when it comes to young kids. Now maybe they're just doing more drugs. The question I
don't
have,
think so.
and I'm not trying to be cute and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm actually serious in this. I wonder, have young people lost the desire to to sort of grease the wheels, as we would say, to remove social inhibitions, to go give your brain a little bit of a holiday, however you want to describe having a few drinks, or however you want to describe smoking a joint or eating mushrooms or whatever it is that floats your boat. Have young people lost the desire to manipulate their mental reality? Is it just alcohol that they're saying no to? Or is this part of a bigger movement of sobriety with young people?
I think it is. I just checked, and numbers from 2017 to 2023 they're pretty much the same in drug use, males and females in North America. But I would say that people are just doing other things. Like you just said, I go into every local pub or whatever now, and they're doing the same thing. They're adding mocktails to their menu. They're adding arcade games or different, photo booths, different things people can use to get entertainment from, because people aren't just going in and ordering shots and just getting plastered anymore. They want to experience life and they want to remember the night, right? But yeah, lots of young people I talk to, even at the weddings I go to now, there's always mocktails. Not everyone, but like a lot of people leave before midnight, whereas before it was just, a crazy party till 1 a.m. And I think, it's also about health. Like people want to wake up the next morning and not have to sleep till 2 p.m. and then, have a few days to recover. Like people just want to enjoy life nowadays. And that could go back to mental health, where when you're down and out, when you're hungover, anxiety is just tenfold, right?
Giants for Life says, in the context of young people not drinking anymore, Giants for Life says the days of $2 doubles are gone.
Dude, remember? Okay,
do you remember 25-cent draft?
I was just gonna say this. When I moved to Edmonton, I never heard of this. I came from Vancouver, where cocktails were already $9 and everything was hoity-toity. But I came here my first night at Union Hall. Here, I'll shout them out because kind of does it. It's an event space now. It's no longer a bar open every night, but it was a Thursday night. I pull up. There's a line down the road. I was like, it's Thursday. It's freezing cold. There's a line down the road. I walk in. It was like walking into Coyote Ugly. Girls were on the bar with bottles dancing around. And I look at the menu and it says 25-cent highballs till 11. I was like, how do you even make money off this? 25-cent highballs?
I don't think they do make. I think they just.
It's when the time flips at 11, people continue drinking and drinks go up, right?
Yeah,
but still, I couldn't. And that was just before they changed it, minimum drink prices now, what? $2.50 or something like that, or two.
I don't know. There's minimum.
You can't do it anymore.
The AGLC has minimum drink prices and maximum drink, like maximum alcohol. I think it's a maximum you can serve as a triple.
Yeah.
Whereas just back in the day it was wild. Like, I remember guys, this is like one of the most discussed. I've never really been able to wrap my mind around mixing vodka and milk. I've just had a bit of a disconnect.
The Paralyzer.
But you remember back in the days, guys would buy jugs of Paralyzer and just have a straw in it. And it's like, you're just walking around drinking a jug of booze and milk.
You're gonna vomit.
This is coming up later, and it doesn't matter that it's only $7. You're gonna pay for this. You're gonna absolutely pay for this. Yeah. A lot of people in the chat are saying, Tracy says she just attended a totally dry wedding. Stephanie says this is a good thing. It
happens, yeah.
Steph says her kids and their friends says they hardly drink. They use cannabis. She says at holiday dinners they don't drink at all. And Ben's probably right, who says maybe a lot of the younger generation has seen the negative effects of binge drinking 100%. And alcohol abuse and has seen how it's ruined families. Maybe it's even their own parents or their grandparents, and it's their life experiences.
Totally.
Influencing. I think Ben probably throws a bullseye right there.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, everyone was an alcoholic. Now everyone's like a health expert. I mean, you've seen this Netflix documentary, Don't Die. Like that's what kids
that guy that wants to live forever?
And maybe not that extreme, but that's what kids are thinking about nowadays. Not only do they want to live longer, they want to be, I'm sure we don't all want to live to the point where we're just like vegetables or whatever, but a lot of us want to look, feel, and be active in 40, 50, 60 years or whatever, into your 70s, 80s. And that's what they're thinking about. I'm glad kids are thinking about the future instead of, but also kids, hey, live in the moment.
Mixed messages. I want to live right up until a month before I can't remember my family and somebody has to wipe my ass. You know what I mean? Those are kind of the two things for me. If I'm not, and I just like, listen, we laugh so we don't cry. I'm not trying to, I know that there are those of you right now, you have family in hospice care, you have family in long-term care. It's really hard when a loved one's in that situation. I've
100%.
been there. I'm not making light of it. But like, you know, you get to a point where you go, there's a life well lived. And it's interesting. These end of life conversations, aren't they? Maybe prompted more by, I'm going to take a hard swerve here because it's what we do on Real Talk, but the more that Canadians talk about MAID, about medical assistance in dying, more and more people are talking about quality of life and end of life.
100%.
I think more people are talking to their family members, to their loved ones, to their spouses, to their kids about how they envision their end of life. And I'm not here endorsing MAID and saying you should go. That's not what I'm saying. But there's more of a conversation about it now probably than ever before in this country.
And I also think it's a good thing. People are like, why are people straying from drugs and alcohol? Maybe because we're tackling mental health better. We have more outlets. We have online counseling. We have better medication to combat anxiety. I mean, Jar just said in here, he knows what it is. Hangxiety. When you're hungover, when you're addicted to drugs, your anxiety is through the roof.
Yeah.
And it used to be before, what was it when you had a bad day? When dad comes home, bad day at work.
Yeah.
He went straight to that little bottle that was literally on like a bar pushy stool, right? And now it's like, maybe I should check in and do 30 minutes online counseling.
Yeah.
Maybe I should meditate. Maybe I should do breathing exercises.
Sharon is in our chat, a wonderful friend of our show. She says, we had a dry wedding. She says it was 1988. Sharon, I wanted to take a personal moment to let you know that we've seen on social media that you lost your husband. You lost a loved one this week, and we wanted to let you know on behalf of the show and this Real Talk community that we're thinking of you, and we're sending you a lot of love as you remember those better days, those fond days, those days as a family. Sharon's been sharing some photos over the past few days, and our hearts hurt with you, Sharon. Jillian says, I wonder if young folks don't want to see themselves on social media after a night out. Right? That's a great point as well. She says, I wonder if it's safer for women maybe if there's less drinking. She says, but I doubt it. Wobbly Inc. says, I think it's probably definitely becoming more acceptable to be an introvert, and sometimes we don't like loud party stuff. I think that there's something to that as well.
Yeah.
Maybe less pressure. Like, I don't know if, like, it just seemed like I grew up in Calgary. I'm a 1977 born, so that's my vintage. Graduated high school in 95. But like, everybody would know that in Calgary at that time, Electric Avenue, 11th Avenue was unbelievable. There were literally, going back in the day, like Coconut Joe's, Fox and Firk, and Shark Shack, like all these, it was bar, and it was like every bar was packed. And you just, there are some successful bars and restaurants now for sure. I'm not pretending like it's not. And in some communities, Scottsdale, Arizona, they're hosting the Waste Management this weekend, that PGA Tour event. Obviously, Scottsdale parties like very few other places. Nashville, Vegas, obviously there's still party spots. But it just seems like the days of like the huge nightclubs are gone.
Well, unless you're in places like New York and Las Vegas and LA, I would say you're absolutely right. But also, there's a good point on here. Somebody just said, people are online a lot more. You can do everything online now. You don't have to go out to the movies. You can watch a movie at home. You don't have to go out to a restaurant. You can order your food online. You don't have to have a girlfriend. You can have a relationship online or a boyfriend or whatever, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of that staying at home
just
going on.
Just make sure you're not getting catfished.
Sure. But hey, like, even if, you can have a non-real relationship online too that is somewhat fulfilling.
What
as
are
long
you
as they're not taking
about?
your money. I'm saying just talking to people online and not seeing them in person,
Okay, but what do you mean by non-real?
Like you could flirt with someone online and pretend that you like them, but like maybe you're too anxious to go out in public and actually, see someone face to face. I think that can be, I'm not saying it's going to be as fulfilling as having a real relationship, but it's better than having no contact with a human.
100%. Absolutely. In the super chat, thank you, Dexter Martin, tossing $5 our way. We really appreciate that. Says, my son just turned 18 and has no ambition for drugs and alcohol. Why should people be shocked? I sure liked it. I think that would be amazing if my kid made that choice as well. We're trying to be more aware as a family. I don't mind talking about this. I think we need to talk about this stuff publicly, of not always, like, you know what resonated with me? You know what first got me thinking about this? When Jordan Tutu was in our studio late last year, the retired NHL player, the first Inuk player in NHL history, the first Inuk hockey player to ever wear the maple leaf. Just a phenomenal guy. He's sober. He's had his battles with alcoholism, but he was talking about the film that Adam Scorgie did. If you missed that Real Talk episode, go back and watch it. It was so good. It's a powerful film. But Jordan talks about how growing up, like as he's looking now as an adult at the family pictures, he's like, every picture with my dad in the picture, my dad's holding a drink. Like in every single picture. He's like, there was alcohol available everywhere at every family gathering. He talked to us about Fridays at 4. He knew what was going to happen in their house, and everybody would be knocking off work in their community, and everybody would be coming in to the Tutu house, and everybody would be getting loaded. Sure. And we as a family, Carrie and I have had conversations about that, just about the, like, and trust me, like Real Talkers, I try to wear my heart on my sleeve. You guys know where I stand on cannabis and booze and all kinds of things. But like, I enjoy a social drink or two. Real talk, we've released our own bourbons for Pete's sake. We love old fashions and the like. But I don't want my kids to think that absolutely every single time you're out of work hours, or every single time you're feeling stressed, or every single time you're celebrating, or every single time friends are over, that there's alcohol involved. I don't think that that's a healthy message to send to your kids, whether it's subconscious or otherwise.
No, and I think what is good about nowadays is even you and I being, we kind of, I saw this great comedian talking about millennials and Gen X and how we relate and how we laid the framework for them. We're in touch with Gen X, but we're not right there. But we've changed the way we are. We go out now. You go out to a restaurant, even when people walk in the studio, Ryan, 10 years ago, you would have said, do you want a beer or a glass of wine? Now, what do you say? Can I get you sparkling water?
That is what we
offer. Can I get you a
first.
coffee?
Yep.
No? Would you rather have a drink, right?
Yeah.
So everyone, I think, is a little more aware, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Garth is in our chat. Great to see him again. You remember Garth joined us on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about DEI, told us about his experience moving to Canada from Jamaica. He says in our chat today, powered by Park Power, the way that Canadians drank to get drunk was culture shock for me when I moved here. That's an interesting observation from somebody that Garth's saying obviously wasn't experiencing that, or that wasn't part of the culture in Jamaica, to see people. Yeah. And then the comment earlier, whoever it was that said, young people noticing binge drinking, like that has been part of, just the idea. You look at how we market it, you look at how we market events, you look at how we talk about things. It's basically come get loaded. Right?
It's a little strange. Yeah, it can be a culture shock for people who haven't grown up that way, to be like, you just drink to get to drunkenness instead of like, it used to be, drink to get drunk too. But nowadays, like when I have a drink, I don't immediately think it's Friday, Saturday, let's get drunk. I think, is there a reason to celebrate?
Yeah.
Is there something we're celebrating? Is there a reason? Like, you know what I mean? Not just always it's the weekend, let's go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Alberta Rancher, I'm with you, says, thank God cell phones didn't exist when I drank. I have thought
right?
so. I mean, I feel like, thank God there was no social media when I was my gosh, I was an absolute idiot. Just great conversation here in the live chat. We sure appreciate you. Les says the first sign of alcoholism is when you have a drink, when it is to your advantage not to, which is an interesting point. I appreciate this conversation. Thanks to everybody that contributes. You got to join us live, and you can do so on 7 different platforms. It's unprecedented. Nobody else is doing that. You can find us on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Mixler, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Did I get them all, Johnny? I think proudly presented by California Closets. That's live weekdays at 8:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Eastern, or of course you can catch us later on demand wherever you get your podcasts. We wrap up every single week, courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park, by setting the stage for you and your hottest takes. What you're about to hear are real emails to talk at ryanjesperson.com from real talkers who are all fired up over the stories that are making news right now. It's the Flamethrower, presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Sheryl writes in to say, Jasper, my husband, the smartest man I know, said that Donald Trump is using Canada to send a message because who in the hell picks a fight with Canada? So I figured he was probably right. And then today I learned about this war strategy. It's from Chinese folklore about a street entertainer with a dancing monkey, and the monkey wouldn't dance. And so the entertainer killed a chicken in front of the monkey to send a message, and then guess what? The monkey danced again. Kill the chicken to scare the monkey. She says there's an article at omfif.org, a recent article disseminating the tariff war and how Canada and Mexico are the chickens that Trump is using to scare China. She says, I'm not sure if the idea has merit, but the truth resonates. What an interesting take from Sheryl. China. How about this one from Jenny? Jenny Yeremy is a great defender of Alberta's watershed. She's been on the show before, the episode titled, Could Your City Run Out of Water? I encourage you to check it out. Jenny writes in and says the Alberta government's corruption is being exposed on the daily between presenting mythical coal mining practices where water we cannot spare is miraculously preserved to undermining the Alberta energy regulator by lifting the coal ban they put in place a couple of years ago in the middle of a coal hearing, or by firing the fifth appointed Alberta Health Services CEO 2 days before her findings on a $614 million medical procurement investigation were to be presented to the Auditor General. This government has to go. Jenny says, join me and the Alberta Resistance Team this Sunday at the Bonus Ratepayers Scout and Guide Hall from 1 to 4 p.m. Let's get those recalls started. Jenny says you can check out abresistance.ca or Eventbrite for details. She says change is possible now. Join the resistance. That from Jenny. How about this one from Alanna, who says the recent firing of Alberta Health Services AHS CEO by the Premier Smith UCP government is a blatant act of political interference that jeopardizes the integrity of our healthcare system. The CEO dismissed just 2 days before a scheduled meeting with the Auditor General to discuss her internal investigation into questionable procurement contracts and private surgical facility deals. The timing is highly suspicious, says Alanna, and suggests an attempt to suppress scrutiny. She says the allegations don't stop there. Mentezopoulos, the CEO, faced pressure from high-ranking officials, including the Premier's then Chief of Staff, Marshall Smith, to approve contracts for private surgical facilities despite concerns over inflated costs and conflicts of interest. When she resisted and initiated an internal investigation, the board recommended she take her findings to the cops. But instead of supporting the pursuit of accountability, the government responded by firing both her and the board. This pattern of behavior is deeply troubling. The UCP government's actions not only undermine the autonomy of healthcare leadership, but raise serious ethical questions about their commitment to transparency and the public good. Albertans deserve a government that prioritizes the health and well-being of citizens over political expediency and cronyism. In light of these events, says Alanna, it's imperative that independent investigations be conducted to uncover the full extent of potential corruption and to hold those responsible accountable. The integrity of Alberta's healthcare system and the trust of its citizens are at stake. How about that one from Alanna? We got this one from Steve yesterday, Johnny. I saw him in the live chat when Lane Edwards was on from Pura Botanicals talking to us about the impact of having their business robbed and ransacked, the windows smashed out, all of their inventory stolen. Steve was in our chat talking about his business being broken into 3 times since 2022. Or that's what I thought. And then he emailed in to say, no, Jasper, you got it wrong. Not 3 break-ins since November of 2022. We've been robbed 3 times between November 22nd of this past year and right now. In other words, they've been broken into 3 times in 2 months or less. Wow. He says it drives me absolutely crazy what's happening right now, not just with the crime, but also we're a manufacturer. They do 3D printing out of Edmonton. He says people are talking to us as though we're somehow dirty because we sell non-Canadian goods. Steve says, I've invested my entire life in this business since 2009, opened additional locations, one in the middle of the pandemic, and I've been hiring Edmontonians when many others were laid off, but don't even get me started. And Steve says, and by the way, before you ask, the most common question we ever get, he says, yes, our printers can print really shitty guns and some useful components for guns, which gets me wondering if maybe that's why people are stealing the printers. Oh. He goes on to say, but they can also do amazing stuff like the ones in the Glen Rose that print off mobility aids for less abled kids, or the ones in the Spruce Grove Hospital that they donated, shout out to you, Steve, that doctors use to print organs to examine before they go go in for surgery.
Amazing. Or the ones that print these.
How cool is that? Yeah, shout out to Noob Try Again, our favorite 3D printer who came up with some cool stuff for us for the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic. We love this one from Stephanie, who writes in and says, okay, here's my 2 cents. Canada, we have a great opportunity ahead of us. Buy Canadian, establish more Canadian manufacturing, get cozy with new or different trade partners, and diversify our basket. It's not going to be easy, but we got to try our best every single day. It's going to bring great national pride and allow us to examine our spending habits and become more creative negotiators with other markets. We'll make new friends in the world of business. We have an opportunity to be united again under one amazing flag, the right and the left working together to proudly stand tall. Everybody without their stupid stories and discrimination and tendency to divide one another. She says this stupid, treacherous tangerine president and his minions have spoken. They want nothing from us. We're worthless to them, they say. So let's stand up, support ourselves, be creative, be courageous, and let's do this. That from Steph. I love it. And we'll wrap up with this one from Cody. I wasn't expecting it, John. I wasn't expecting this. But Cody, taking on the big stuff, taking on the big issues, says, Jasper, I want to talk to you about something that makes no sense, and I don't know why we all just accept it, and that is laundry. Cody says, why do we wash our clothes in one room? No, get this. Why do we wash our clothes in one room, fold them in another, and then put them away in yet another? Says that's 3 separate spaces for one task. I mean, I guess unless California Closets designed your laundry room. But he says, imagine if you kept your toaster in the bedroom, your fridge in the basement, and your dishwasher in the garage. You wouldn't do it. We design spaces for specific tasks, except when it comes to laundry, which insists on migrating through the entire house like a lost tourist. And it's not just 2 or 3 rooms, it's several rooms. Dirty laundry starts in the bedroom, then we carry it to the laundry room, and then once it's cleaned, it moves to the living room for folding, and then back to bedrooms for storage. Why are we making this so complicated? Cody has a plan. Says laundry machines are quiet now. There's no reason we can't consolidate the entire process into one space, a real laundry room. Machines in one corner, a folding station, and actual storage, dressers, drawers, everything. Each person gets their own designated section, and all the dirty laundry stays in one place. No more baskets cluttering hallways, no more back and forth nonsense. Cody says it's time to rethink laundry. Let's make laundry rooms actual laundry rooms. From Cody, who, as far as I can tell, because he sends this from his work email, does not work for California Closets, but this sounds like a big California Closets advertisement.
I just had an epiphany.
Hey?
Make laundry great again.
I'm joking. The Flamethrower is proudly presented and fueled by our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. When you visit the DQs in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road, you make sure to tell them that Real Talk sent ya. Coming up early next week, we're going to talk to some high-profile political players that are driving us a little bit nuts with their inability to finally give us a date, and then we'll announce their appearance on the show. We're also going to talk to Stephen Harper's former drug advisor, his former justice advisor, who says that Pierre Poilievre's plan to jail drug dealers for life is a look in the wrong direction. It'll be Professor Ben Perrin leading us off next week. In the meantime, thanks for telling your friends about Real Talk. Thanks for liking this episode, subscribing on YouTube, and keeping it real.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.